MBS Frontline.
A moment of reckoning for the Forum for Democratic Change is in the offing.
Regions that were consulted, there were 17, unanimously coalesced behind the idea of establishing a new political party.
We start the process of dissolving FDC party.
I second the motion in totality.
But is this a move to dissolve the party and have it scrapped off the political party's register? Or is this the plan to dissolve the credibility of the FDC's Najanankumbi faction?
We knew that we would hit turbulence at some time. And so we provided for dissolution, and this is what we are activating today.
Either way, plans to dissolve the party were received at Najanankumbi with fire and fury.
With the authorized officials sitting here, Lukwago cannot come and sit in my office. Apart from political nobanism, where he's been killing political formations, the DP, Subi, A4C, DJ, wherever he has left those political formations, he has left political turmoil.
Amuriat confessed that this moment reminded him of something he should have done many years earlier.
Came here, harassed Muntu, wanting him to resign. At an appropriate time, we will tender our apology to Muntu on behalf of those people.
Meanwhile, the indomitable Nandala Mafabi's loud silence is raising questions as to what could be cooking in Najanankumbi's political kitchen. Each side has a compelling argument.
Semuju Nganda, Ibrahim, is the speaker's peg boy, whose integrity is deeply questionable.
Which FDC will make it to the 2026 election ballot? But what does the referee, the Uganda Electoral Commission, have to say?
For a political party to end its life, it must be done in consistent with the provisions of its own constitution.
The split and retain credibility to challenge the ruling NRM.
We didn't fight for family rule. Wherever you are, stand up and we liberate our country. This country must go back to the hands of Ugandans.
This is the Frontline.
MBS Frontline.
A very good evening and welcome to this edition of The Frontline. My name is Charles Mwambushampagi. It is a moment of truth for the Forum for Democratic Change. Whether you're looking at it from what remains at the party headquarters in Najanankumbi or the group sitting at Katonga Road. The group at Katonga Road has said it has started processes to seek the dissolution of the Forum for Democratic Change and wants the people at Najanankumbi to exit offices. But Najanankumbi seems to be sitting on fairly firm ground legally. We'll be exploring what that means, not just for the Forum for Democratic Change, but for the broader political opposition as we move closer to an election in 2026. The bigger question is, how long will it take for advocates of change under the FDC and other political parties to refocus on the change they seek away from their internal squabbling? I have a fairly large panel. Let me start from the extreme end. Let me start from, next to me here. The Honorable Yusuf Nsibambi, one of the most storied lawyers in this town, actually my former teacher at the law school, and now a member of parliament. He is hanging out with the Najanankumbi group. Najanankumbi group of the Forum for Democratic Change. He's here with us. I have another lecturer from Makerere University. He's been a vanguard in the civil society movement. Godba Tumushabe. He heads GLIS, Great Lakes Institute for Strategic Studies. Very nice to have you, Godba.
Thank you.
I have a scion of the Frontline, a frontliner, executive director at the Uganda Media Center. He lives in Mukono. What is that place called? Nabuti?
I live in Chagwe.
In Chagwe.
I live in Chagwe.
Musaja Wakabaka?
Yes, I live in Mulanda. Mulanda. And I live in Kapelebyong.
In Kapelebyong.
Yes.
Ofono Opondo. Very nice to have you.
Thank you.
All the way from Rubabo County, the Honorable Naboth Namanya. Yes, Naboth Namanya is a member of the Forum for Democratic Change, the Katonga faction.
He's not hanging out.
Huh? He hangs out at Katonga faction. Honorable Naboth Namanya, very nice to have you on the front line.
Thank you so much.
And last but not least, he's a pioneer of the front line, Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, President General of the Democratic Party, and of course, frontliner, Norbert Mao. Very nice to have you, sir. The topic we have this evening is a rather complicated one, looking at the Forum for Democratic Change, the moment of truth for the party of change. What is exactly, as it stands now, one section that still insists it is FDC, sitting at Katonga Road, held a delegates conference, and in that delegates conference, among other resolutions, was to start the process of dissolving the FDC that sits at Najanankombe. I have, I hope I'm not wrong, I have 3 lawyers on the panel. Let me start with Chairman Ma. Let me start with, okay, let me start with Godba. Because the other are players in the central field of the political parties, especially the FDC and Chairman Mao from the Democratic Party. Let me start with you. Legally, what does, from a legal perspective, what does that pronouncement or resolution from the team that met at Katonga to dissolve the party that sits in Najanankombe, can they?
No, I must confess, I haven't addressed myself to the constitution of FDC because I believe that probably the discussion of the legalities and the illegalities is not as of much consequence as the conditions and the circumstances in which these parties are operating. But as a general principle, a political party is it's an organization. It's more or less like a company. It's a legal entity, and that means that the people who created it, who incorporated it, using the provisions of the constitution that governs that organization, they actually can be able to resolve it. Now, I think that I would imagine that the headquarter, where the meeting to resolve the party's seats may not be of consequence, because it's rare that you'll find that constitutions of organizations or companies are prescribing that meetings of the organization have to be held at the registered office of the organization. Because I would imagine that the registered offices of FDC probably are Najanankombe. But I don't think that there would be, if the organs of the party are properly constituted, I don't think that there would be.
What in this case would constitute proper constitution of the organs of the party? Of a party like FDC?
No, an organization has a structure. A political party has structures. So it has an executive committee. It may have a delegates conference. It may have other operational committees. So the process of dissolving the organization would have to conform with the procedures laid out in the Constitution.
The reality is that you have had parallel events going on at 2 different places with individuals that claim to be representing or to be acting as organs of a political party. So you had Najanankombe holding its activities, saying it is the official FDC. You have Katonga Road holding activities, claiming it is the official FDC. So In that case, there's a chairman who sits at Katonga. There's a chairman who sits at.
I wouldn't really go into the details because this is more or less like splitting hairs. The organization is there; it has a constitution.
Yes.
When there are conflicts like we are seeing, the rights process for resolving that conflict is either the internal organs of the party that a party may have its own conflict resolution mechanism. If they cannot resolve them internally, they are supposed to be going to courts of law to make definitive determination of what the governance of that political party is like. Now, the reason I was telling you that I think that the procedures and what's going on for me is not as important as the context, because I believe that the context in which these political parties are operating is so convoluted and hostile that even if I was a member of the FDC, whether on the Najana Nkumbi side, whether on the Katonga side, I would not be looking at the judiciary as the institution that helps me to resolve these conflicts, because the judiciary itself, the judicial system, is one of the captured institutions of state that have been captured by the NRM junta, that you would be going to ask the NRM junta institutions to resolve problems in a political party where the head of state, remember the head of state, I think that was 2021, where he declared publicly that by 2026, all these political parties will be dead. That, because once you are head of state and you make that declaration, it means that you are actually deploying the institutions and resources of state to be able to destroy these parties.
Let me first go to Honorable Naboth Namanya. You belong to the Katonga FDC. I don't want to call it a faction. And you were part of the delegates conference that met and made the resolution. Did your legal team within that section of the party explain exactly under how you are going to go about this dissolution of the Najana Nkumbi FDC?
Thank you, Charles. First of all, I want to greet viewers, and there is a statement I want first to dispute, that FDC is split. No, FDC was one party, and those who are saying it is split, they are the ones who are posturing the masqueraders who think they are FDC and who are not. But FDC was promoted by Ugandans in accordance with the Constitution, and the framers of the Constitution of FDC had envisaged that perhaps this would happen, and they put a clause under Article 36. Because
in the FDC Constitution?
In the FDC Constitution.
Could you be kind enough and read for us or reproduce for us Article 36 of the Constitution of FDC for the benefit of our viewers? I see both yourself and Councillor Sivambi have picked the same copy. Or Honorable Sivambi, your colleague, have picked the same copy.
Article 36 reads, if I can read verbatim, the National Delegates Conference or the Special Conference may dissolve the party by 2/3 majority of all delegates of the National Delegates Conference, and transfer the assets and the liabilities of the party. 2, there must be a notice of at least 6 months. 3, there must be a resolution from 3 sides of the district conferences. 4, the resolution must be supported by at least 80% of the attendance of the delegates conference. I want to tell the viewers that we have complied to all of these. And therefore, when they were making the constitution, they know perhaps that the house of FDC would get problems. So when we noticed that the house, its pillars had been eaten up by termites, and we knew that the house could not be, the pillars could not hold the house anymore. So using the constitution, so the members of FDC and through its appropriate organs decided that we need now to demolish the house in accordance with the constitution, and then we reconstruct a new house. Perhaps we change a design, we use, we make new pillars, and if there are some other parts of the old house that we can use, at times you are demolishing a house and you find maybe planks, some blocks are still useful, we can bring them and we begin a new house. And this time we make a strong pillar that will hold the house. So we, the leaders of the party, we couldn't risk to let the house fall on the people. So we tell the people that this house has been eaten up. So we needed to demolish and perhaps make a new house.
Question. You are in that house, in a very important position in that house as a member of parliament. When you vote and pass a resolution to dissolve the party, what happens to you as a sitting member of parliament? You see, how does the constitution address a position like yours?
You see, the constitution, it has a provision. We gave a notice, we said we have started the process. It has begun. So by the time it ends, then the law, we shall have complied with the law, then we shall know, because we have declared that this house is about to fall. And now we are starting the process of seeing how we can demolish the house before it falls. So by the time the house, we completely demolish it, then we shall have designed a proper way in accordance with the law, where we shall take all the items that has been in the house, including the members of parliament, in accordance to the law. So by the time we reach there, then we shall have designed the program and we shall comply fully with the law. But members of the house, we have said the house is about to fall. So we couldn't wait and give any chance for the house to fall on its members. So we said we are beginning the process of demolishing the house. It is not yet, but we have given a notice, a political notice, that this house, now we need to shift from this house to another new house.
And your basis is Article 36 of your constitution, of the FDC constitution. Councillor Yusuf Nsebambi, let me turn to you. Can the FDC has been given notice 6 months and it will be dissolved? You're a sitting member of parliament elected on the FDC ticket.
Yeah.
Where does that leave you?
Thank you very much, Charles. In fact, what my colleague Naboth has just explained is really surprising and a little bit crazy. Because one, he's blowing hot and cold. He's saying they have dissolved the party.
No, they've started the process of dissolving the party.
No, because if you look at this article, sorry, he's reading, I can also just read sub-article 2. Actually, 1 and 2. 36 talks about dissolution of a party, which is in order. But it must be by the National Delegates Conference or a special conference by 2/3 majority of all delegates. And there must be a notice of at least 6 months. There are some, this article presupposes that it must be a delegates conference. What was convened or the meeting held at Katonga was not a delegates conference. According to our constitution, the delegates conference must be held once in every 3 years. They have held 3 meetings, all referred to as delegates conferences. It should have been maybe a special meeting under Article 36. And who constitutes a delegates conference is described in the Constitution, Article 23, A to J. That meeting that was held, they only got 4 representatives from each region. They are not described here. There's nothing like a 4 representative from a region. The chairman, vice chairman, members of the National Council, all the categories described were not represented at all. So they went to the regions in their consultation.
I saw Chairman Ambassador Waswabirigwa.
No, but he is no longer chairman. The term expired, and you have two court judgments, one by Justice Nambayo, stopping a meeting where he was supposed to be appointed, and there was an order, and then the next day they held a meeting extending his term. Then Justice Musa Sekana okayed a meeting of what you refer to as Katonga Group.
Katonga Group or Najana Nkumbi Group?
Oh, sorry, Najana Nkumbi Group, and the delegates conference was held, and office bearers returned and registered with the Electoral Commission, which is the registry of all political parties operating in Omare. So this reference to Birigwa as the chairman is wrong. He can only be described as a mobilizer, and he can only become a member if he presents evidence of membership. They have never renewed membership, which is supposed to be annual. None of those colleagues at Katonga is holding a life membership card. So I think what is happening is a fiasco. I don't know under which capacity. They can only be described as mobilizers or sympathizers.
The whole group at Katonga?
Yeah, because even Naboth here, my colleague, he has not renewed his membership. You're supposed to come.
In what capacity is he sitting within Parliament?
No, actually, that's what I wanted. Because I'm his whip. I appointed him at the committees. Actually, sought for he preferred which other committee where you had to shift you? Even Semujunganda, who is masquerading as an official.
I have been in the committees. I have not been shifted at all, even a single day.
I know, but we see designations were done recently. You can even Google here. I'm the whip.
You did the designation?
Yes. Even Semujunganda was unceremoniously removed by a letter from the Secretary General, Nandara Mafabi, and it's on record. So whatever is going on, I think our colleagues at Najana Nkumbi should really take heart and say they made a very big mistake not to participate in the elections of Katonga, of office bearers. So as we talk now, if they wish to be members of the FDC, there's no problem. But they cannot dissolve a party because they have no locus. The directing mind and
they have no legal capacity.
No, they don't. Because if you go to the registry, which is the Electoral Commission, even recently they allocated funds and appropriated by our working committee. In Dokoro, we are the ones who recommended the candidate. Theirs was rejected because they have no locus. They tried to access the bank account and they said, can you please bring a letter of the Secretary General called in Nandara Mafabi? So I think we're talking about matters which are really, you see something is crazy. It's not just, it's really crazy for an honorable member of parliament to masquerade as an office bearer, to dissolve a party which is running without any problem. We are conducting general elections. We're doing mobilization drives for, I'm confused here, with all due respect.
Chairman Mao, on the front line, you wear many hats, but you choose which one to use. But as a lawyer and as a leader of a political party, what do you make of these versions of interpretation of the law, the party constitution? Can that resolution at Katonga hold legally?
I think we should discuss it from two angles, politically and legally. I believe the group at Katonga has lost the political battle, so they are now looking for another front from where to launch. But I cannot say anything without lamenting the demise of a very promising political party, and also seeing the spiritual leader of the FDC, Kano Kiza Besigye, being reduced to a caricature. Because seriously, he is a more serious person than what we see him being reduced to now. He, in 1999, 2000, he embodied the group that thought that the NRM was losing direction. And he appealed to a cross-section of Ugandans. And while the majority of his comrades were timid, many of them later came to agree that he had a point. And that is the momentum that charged his 2001 campaign. And he carried the same momentum into exile, came back to an uproarious welcome, and in 2006, the FDC became the leading opposition party, overtaking the party I lead. So the FDC is not just an organization for the warring parties. This is a Ugandan institution. Political parties are national institutions. Now, those who love the law, let me take you in a safe arena of company law. If the shareholders of Next Media are quarreling, when they are quarreling, it affects those who advertise here, those who work here. It affects a lot of things. They pay property tax. So a political party's life affects many people. And in a company, there are many grounds for winding up, and there are procedures. In fact, this debate is very interesting for me as Minister of Justice, because with the companies, we appoint an official receiver. I think we had never thought of that. Now I have to go back to my lawyers at the Ministry of Justice and tell them, in case it happens, of course somebody must be there on behalf of Uganda to take charge. Now, because these people, if they dissolve themselves, when you dissolve a party, then it ceases to have members. You cannot say we have dissolved and we are reconstituting ourselves into something else. When you dissolve, you are gone. So, this being a public institution, which is also governed by national laws and the Constitution of Uganda, I am thinking this is a more interesting debate than people take it up to. We may now have to amend the law to create an office or a manner in which we appoint an officer who can, whether it is the secretary of the Electoral Commission, to now take charge of everything where the party has been dissolved.
Chairman Mao, I've been looking at the provisions. One quick question before I put what I've been looking at. Political parties are regulated under the Political Parties and Organizations Act. And that law makes provision for how a political party can be wound up. I've been trying to reconcile that with what is available in the constitution of an individual political party. And I don't know, like you said, consulting your lawyers at the ministry to find out how you handle that, because it doesn't seem to give this same process.
Of course, a law is not made only by the government. A law is made also by stakeholders. So assuming we decide to make regulations under the Political Parties and Organizations Act, regulations to give guidelines on how to dissolve, what happens to a party which is dissolved. So for me, I am taking that as homework because it is now important. I had never thought about it, and I don't think the lawmakers had thought about it. But that said, if you fail to take control of the rudder of a ship, then you say we must now sink the ship. I also think politically that may not be the best strategy. There's a battle for the soul of the FDC. These are questions of internal democracy of a political party. Political parties, by the way, can also be dissolved by the government because a party can be banned. When the government bans a party, it is more or less dissolved. That's not dissolution, Chairman. the effect is the same. It's
not.
So whether I hang you or I shoot you, or I cut off your head, you are dead.
With the dissolution, you lose your legal existence. Banning does not make you lose legal existence.
I will study that.
Yeah.
You can ban, you can unban, but in some jurisdictions, in Germany at least I know there's a party that was dissolved by the government because of its extreme ideology. But the question for us today is about the internal processes of the FDC. When they present their papers, it will be up to the Electoral Commission to decide whether these are the correct group. Can they actually dissolve Uganda, for instance? You know, these are now very interesting questions. A group of tribes that constitute Uganda, you come to a meeting and say, this country is not working for us, doesn't represent us, that's why we have secession. So I think parties can splinter. Many parties in Uganda have splintered. DP splintered in 1984. A group formed the Nationalist Liberal Party. Later they came back. The first party, Uganda National Congress, splintered. There was a faction of Dr. Bote, then another faction which united with the Uganda People's Union and formed Uganda People's Congress. This is normal in political parties. So I do not know why you cannot focus on creating rather than destroying.
Okay.
So does Katonga want to focus on being creators? Because right now the energy is in destroying. But you can actually create. In any case, FDC, they didn't try to go and dissolve NRM. And I don't think the Honorable Mama Mbabazi would have thought of forming his group to go and dissolve NRM for that reason. So if your goal is political power and you want to organize, and a political party is basically an association, and now these people who used to associate have now disassociated. So who remains with the whatever is left of the association? To the best of my knowledge, the group in Najanankumbi is the one that is in charge of whatever is left. Now the group which is outside need to use more of politics to capture the controls, because I don't think standing on the shores and saying that ship has now been sunk, but it is there, it is being driven by the Nandalas and so on. So I think we need to see more seriousness coming from Katonga, really. Because this one, while it is exciting and makes good copy and headlines, but I think the real resources that Katonga needs are more of political resources rather than legal resources.
Ofono Pondo, you've been watching this drama within the Blue Party, and you're watching. We haven't really resolved the question of whether that group can actually dissolve the party and the process. Someone was telling me that if members of the NRM, for example, can members of the NRM, a section, sit somewhere and say we are dissolving the party when it is in charge of the country, what happens to the structures? How does that process get handled? Maybe that's part of the homework that the minister needs to look at. But maybe from a political perspective, what do you make of all this going on within the FDC?
Well, my young brother Naboth claims that FDC has never split, hasn't split. I think that's you call it what? Really raising hair for nothing. Because the truth is, there are senior members, officials of FDC who left FDC. It reduced its number, it reduced its power, reduced its influence. So that's a split. And has been happening virtually every 4 or 5 years. As we all know, we started with Betty Kamia, We had Tom Butime, the chairman, the national chairman actually, of FDC, rather John Butime,
the late.
Who died, and then he came back to NRM. And the most important one, the two most important one, was the former president, former secretary general, former leader of opposition, who left, abandoned FDC, and formed a new party.
Called the Alliance for National Transformation.
Yes. And now, obviously, the BCJ group in Katonga have abandoned the party and went to Katonga Road. And the fact that they cannot reach Najanankumi from the ordinary eye, it means even they themselves know that they are not in charge of FDC. Just by that fact alone, that the fact they cannot reach FDC, they are not the ones in charge of the official headquarters of FDC in Najanankumi, in the country. They are not the ones who endorse papers of FDC. They don't make returns to the Electoral Commission. I think they know all these things, but they think they can fool people. But you can fool people, some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. I think having realized the futility of them not being able to control the FDC, they have decided to be a nuisance and create nuisance value for the runners of FDC. I think this is what really they're up to. Otherwise, if you want to form a political party like they have announced, you don't even have to struggle to dissolve the other one. You just move out. If you have the actual influence, you just move out, go and form a new political party. So I think they are creating a new sense of value. Now, Godiba would want to broaden the discussion and say, you see the political atmosphere in the country. And he fingers the judiciary. I want to believe that when Godiba has a dispute with me or with anybody over any matter, he goes to court. He goes to the institutions of government. He runs the Gilis. He must have registered Gilis with an institution of government. So how can you say that the judiciary is no good at all, when actually you run an organization, you pay tax to a government, and then you claim that it is not serving the purpose. You can say it is bad, but you can't say it doesn't serve the purpose. So, what is the purpose then if it's bad? So I think what the Katonga group is doing is really to try and dampen the spirit of the people who are running FDC, but also dampen the spirit of the followers of FDC who believe in the Najanankumi group, in the hope that by the time they announce a new political party, they can probably migrate with a chunk of the followers of FDC. I think this is really what they are trying to do. That by saying we have dissolved, or we are in the process of dissolving, the ordinary member of FDC, I think this is what they think, or what we call gullible, will say, yes, FDC was dissolved, so let us migrate with the new group where they are taking us. About Nanaboth, you said he's a spiritual leader. I call him the Doyen. The what? The Doyen. Doyen. The Doyen of FDC, Kiza Besije.
That's an English word?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Please explain.
Now, you see,
many roots.
Yes. Yes. You see, you see
he's speaking it from
this is how Besige fooled Ugandans in 2000 by saying that he's a former physician of President Museveni, by everybody knowing that he was a former NPC. He created a false belief that he's the one who knew NRM most. No. I'm saying yes. I'm saying he created. You made your point. You made your point, Nabot. listen
He
and I
said he
speak.
was his doctor.
Listen. I'm not saying he was not, but I'm saying he created that myth that
saying he fooled people.
yes, he fooled the people that
By saying
because
he's a doctor.
by the fact that he was the physician, he was NPC, he knew the NRM more or less like what you followed.
But did he lie about that?
No, I'm not saying he lied.
Yes. So how did he have
No, I'm
people?
saying he fooled the people that by merely being NPC, he knew NRM more. And people followed, some people followed him. Some people followed him.
And others didn't.
In the belief, of course others, I didn't follow him. And of course, making it appear as if he had what it takes to knock down NRM. 25 years down the road, he has been proved wrong. He has been proved wrong. And because of that, what he made people believe that he was, it has taken people almost 25 years to know that it's taking them for a joyride.
But which people are you talking about of honor? Which people?
The people of Uganda. The people of Uganda. And as you know, of course, since you created FDC in 2005, and even we can even go back and say, since the reform agenda days, you know that FDC hasn't been increasing in number. FDC has not been increasing the number of members of parliament since 2006. It started with 37, it came back to 35, came down to 30.
Does that speak to the political context?
Yes, yes, that's what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. The very fact that under the various leadership of FDC, the party has not been increasing its numerical strength in elective bodies should be speaking to what FDC really is.
You know, Charles.
What is the ground of FDC? What created the FDC? How is FDC? Why was FDC created? How was it? What were the issues? I think FDC has remained a party of bitterness, a party of angry people by and large, a party of intrigue, and consequently, we can even say a party of dog whistle. And once those issues no longer have traction, it can only come to what FDC is today.
We need to take a quick commercial break. Doyen is a word in English. It means the most respected or prominent person in a particular field. Yeah. But in this case, you would pick it from, yes, a man who is the senior member of a group. And that's the description he gave for Doyen.
You see, when you're from Rubavu or Ntungamo, sometimes sometimes it's difficult getting some of these words.
Better than somebody from
Mulanda. Mulanda is by the international body.
Let's take a break and pick up this conversation in a moment.
Frontline.
You're still watching the Frontline on NBS TV, and we're discussing a party at a crossroads called the Forum for Democratic Change. And as some members have suggested here, and even some of our viewers, your comments on social media, the crisis is much broader than the individual political party called the Forum for Democratic Change. One of the bigger questions is, how long will it take for FDC to focus on the change it's been talking about since it was created, with having to deal with these internal issues within the political party? Godbe, I want to come back to you. You keep wanting to broaden this discussion to the political context in which they're operating. And the question there is, yes, there is the legal issues. I think it will be important for some of our viewers to check under the Political Parties and Organizations Act, I think resolution of a political party, it's the Electoral Commission that can dissolve a political party for non-compliance. I think under
it will be non-compliance.
Section 25.
Even the parties may dissolve.
May dissolve themselves.
Yes, themselves.
Okay.
But that's voluntary. Voluntary dissolution.
Voluntary dissolution.
Yes.
And I just wanted quick clarification. Do the rules of the Companies Act apply the same way they apply?
No, they don't. Because actually under the Political Organization Act, Even if you are a creditor and you have a judgment date, you cannot wind up a party and attach its assets because it's a national institution. It can only be voluntary or by the Electoral Commission.
In fact, that's the difference. Just a quick clarification that even in under the Companies Act, there is voluntary and involuntary dissolution. Voluntary means that the shareholders have basically made the decision to cease doing
whatever business we established to do,
we are stopping.
We're done.
Yeah. Involuntary means that they are actually third parties that are interested in winding up because sometimes they are creditors who have not been paid, so they can apply. And involuntary dissolution is by order of court.
But for political parties, involuntary can only be by the Electoral Commission. So if you're an outsider, like the Katonga group, you have no locus. You cannot wind up.
You keep referring to each other with very interesting language, and that's where I want Godber to start from. What does this mean for the broader political?
No, so this is the point, that if you look at FDC today, I think it is wrong to fault the group at Katonga or fault the group at Najanankumbi. I consider FDC as a victim of the political environment in which we operate. Because let me explain, Charles.
Yes.
Let me explain. Look at all the political parties that we've had. Start with DP. There's a time when there was pull and push within DP between Chairman Mao and Elias Rukwago. And they played the legal gymnastics. At the end of the day, Chairman Mao remained President General, but actually Rukwago moved with most of the political leaders, especially within Buganda. And most of the MPs who were for DP were from Buganda. That did not leave DP in any better shape. You go to UPC, the fight between Akena and Otun. You remember the fight at Buganda House, where even the police now became the main arbiter, basically trying to block Otun from Uganda House. Actually, the Otun faction was evicted from Uganda House by the police. And eventually, you have UPC almost confined to Lango. Right now, if you are looking for the existence of UPC, you are mainly looking at Lango. So where is UPC now? Where is its strength? Now you have FDC, almost going through the same process. If you extended this analysis further, you can actually see it in NRM, because the group that calls itself Pirao, led by Mohoz, is an NRM faction. And you know that they have even articulated, even actually talking about NRM as a reactionary organization. But these are all NRM members. When there was an attempted, there was a process to launch Pirao, I think it was over 100 MPs who appeared there were NRM MPs. So what you are seeing in FDC is a consequence of the dictatorship that is pervasive in this country, and you cannot solve it with the legalese, going to court and saying
how do you resolve it?
No, this country right now, we have a problem which is rooted in the current dictatorship, which is rooted in the current capture of the institutions of state by the NRM junta. So the effort, the struggle should be about all of us Ugandans, whether you are FDC, Katonga, or Najanankumbi, or you are NRM, or you are DP. How do we liberate the institutions of state from the current capture and create a new political dispensation?
Someone listening to you would say, you're reading from the Book of Lamentations, and you're asking questions. How do we? Just hold it a moment. Yeah. You're saying, how do we?
Yes.
No one is talking about that how. And the demonstration...
I can tell you the how.
Yes, and the demonstration of that how is, I mean, the failure to answer that question is demonstrated in the chaos that pervades every entity every individual that is standing on the outside saying they want to fight the dictatorship.
No, so this is, I've given you the diagnosis of the problem from my understanding. And incidentally, most of us who are not involved actively in politics, we blame the Nsibambis, the Vestiges, and whoever. We blame them. But look around, if you go to the trade unions, you'll find the same splits within the trade unions. You go to the churches, you'll find the same splits. You'll go to the civil society now. This is a sector that is literally scattered. So you can go to every segment of our population now. You'll find almost the same challenges that the political parties are facing. But that's why I've said, right now, because of the nature of the problem, which is a problem of state capture, when a point like this comes, you then have to mobilize collective citizen resistance to be able to confront the dictatorship that you are dealing with here.
38 years of President Yoweri Museveni. Possibly another, maybe if he goes for another 5 years, and Godber and the rest of the team are not remaining static.
Yeah.
When you look back, once President Museveni is no longer in power, the NRM is no longer in power, how would you describe what was happening to Ugandans then, at that stage? When you're an active player in the political field, what would you say had gone wrong?
I don't know whether I need to repeat this a lot, Charles. I'm saying my personal opinion is that President Museveni has instituted here and run a very sophisticated dictatorship that has captured state institutions and demobilized institutions of citizenship.
Exactly my question.
And so when you look back, you'll congratulate him that he was able to rule us so badly, and that we were so indisciplined and disorganized that we are not able to confront this situation.
To say, when the questions were asked about what you're doing about these internal issues, you deflected and looked at the opposite side.
I don't know how. I don't know what you are trying to achieve, because you see, I've described to you all the institutions of citizenships, whether they are political parties, whether they are trade unions, whether they are religious groups. I am saying,
whose responsibility is it?
And you see, Charles, please, fighting a dictatorship is not like you are shooting a silver bullet. This Museveni dictatorship, we can even fight it for the next another 10 or even 20 years. What is important is that as citizens, we know the problems, and we are trying to do it. And in most cases, it's not even like there is a war that he fought in the early 1980s. No, each one of us as individuals, we are making a small contribution time and again. So while most people bash they will bash the Katonga faction of FDC, they will bash the Najana Nkumbi faction of FDC. For me, I actually say, as long as the Najana Nkumbi faction is organizing in their own way, however small, they are making a contribution. The Katonga faction is making its contribution. The other groups are making their contributions. And because that is the nature of fighting a dictatorship.
Well, we'll go back to that. But Honorable Yusuf Nsibambi, let me come back to you. These fights within the Forum for Democratic Change, Ofono said, since its establishment, registered as a political party in 2005, or you could take it back 5 years earlier to the reform agenda, to date, FDC as a political entity has been losing ground, not gaining ground. When you hear the discussions, the choice words that are being used by the different members of the FDC, Katonga and Najana Nkumbi, what does it portend for you as a political player? What does it mean for you in terms of building and focusing on what you say is the main goal of fighting, what you say is the dictatorship?
I think the critical point which was raised by Godiba, that when you're fighting a dictatorship, it's not really a bed of roses, because you're fighting a government which is in power. It has the coercive machinery, the police, the army. It has a national budget, essentially meant to fight governance of a country for them to achieve whatever they want to achieve. So as it is, it's not an easy task. However, we also have a very big problem, and I think you raised it slightly, that people who are supposed to be at the forefront of confronting this dictator are on the sides and on the fence. So it's very difficult for you to blame individuals who are now putting in the little wherever they are. Yeah. I think we are trying our level best to confront this monster. However, in the process of doing it, you find now self-seekers and job seekers taking the forefront.
When you're pulling at each other, between your former colleagues, now sitting at Katonga and you sitting at Naja Nankumbi, why would you blame the people sitting on the fence?
No, you see, that's the problem, because the people you're talking about who are, for example, at Katonga and Naja Nankumbi, you find that, again, maybe those are the people not supposed to be at the forefront of fighting this.
Who is supposed to be then?
No, like you, like Godiba, like everybody, but you're saying, why are you sitting at the fence and keep accusing us who did a sacrifice? The other day people are saying, why do you organize people to go on the streets when your kids are not on the street? I said, no, already we are there. You see, so absolutely, you should also have a contribution. But going to your point, and something which I've realized coming closer now to politician, I was an ordinary teacher at the law school and an activist at that, or a lawyer. I was not actively involved in the deep politics as it's supposed to be. The majority of the people who are involved, they're either job seekers or people who are self-centered. If you see these wars or misunderstandings, they're really so petty. But people who now depict themselves as angels, actually they are not. And they take the population which, or described as gullible, over petty issues to amplify those small issues into big ones for them to appear controlling the politics of this country. I know the entire group of Subi, for example, I can say without any hesitation, it is a group of self-seekers. But they destroyed a party which has been created over time. They are real self-seekers. When you know whatever they are doing, I'm on the budget committee, and some of the people who, whatever they saw on the floor, is quite different for whatever they do in the corridors with people who are actually oppressing and exploiting this country. So really, we should really look at the politics and the misunderstandings within the political parties and accuse or blame people who actually fail to participate in this process, and you leave it to self-seekers and job seekers. Just look at the profile of all those people. They have never worked in any formal place like you are. They have never been groomed or nurtured anywhere, and the next day one is saying, I want to be the Secretary General of a party or the president. It is impossible. It is really impossible. The Maos went through structures, through different grooming by able-bodied and experienced people, and they know how to go around things. But you see, you go on a radio station, you abuse one's mother and father, and then the next day you are an honorable member of parliament. And they say now you want to be the president of the party. So ideally, we are blaming the dictatorship, but we should also blame the elites who completely left, who left the management of our politics, even the economy, to individuals who are supposed to be followers or voters. So I think really, for me, like my PP said he's going to apologize to Honorable Muntu. For me, really, I find it hard to say that I made a correct decision to actively do what I'm doing now instead of activism and maybe the legal input. Because do we have any...
Dr. Besige said he walked out of Naja Nankumbi to focus on activism because he didn't want to be bound by the limitations of political parties.
I keep asking him, how can you do that without a vehicle? You are destroying elective politics. You're destroying established political institutions. So how are you going to achieve that? Are you going to say, for example, and come with the oracles and witch doctors to bewitch Museveni? You must have a vehicle for you to move activism. And see, for him, and actually that is clear, I believe he wants to participate with those people who want to kill the party with a weird belief, which is actually wild, that you can do activism without a political party. That is impossible.
It's not.
That's why actually Naboth is, they cannot resign now. Because if the party is bad, why don't you resign? Naboth is saying now we cannot resign now because the law talks about 1 year before elections, and they want to do this process of dissolution of a party in their personal, putting their personal interests at forefront. Why don't you resign? But they say we can only resign after this process because that will be 1 year, and the law talks about that. So if there is no party, don't blow hot and cold. Resign, and you come with your new party as a candidate. But they're saying now we cannot do it now.
The challenge is thrown to you.
Because now, if we do it now.
The challenge has been thrown to you. Blowing hot and cold.
Thank you so much. First of all, I need to clarify this. When OO was submitting, he mentioned a number of people who have exited, number of individuals that have left the FDC, and then he refers to it as a split. Equally, we have seen members exiting NRM. I don't believe that members exiting NRM, some of members in FDC, including Dr. Besige, Noop and other people were in NRM, and that did not amount to a split. So first of all, I need to state that all what we are doing is illegal and we are following the Constitution. Because these guys of Naja Nankumbi, they went to court and they wanted to challenge Ambassador Waswa Birigwa, that is not the chairperson, the legal chairperson of FDC. But court squashed that.
No.
Yes, you went and you wanted to know whether, so whichever, every resolution, even output of the NEC that was convened by Toteremu Kawamwenda, now it is illegal. So even you, the whip of FDC, you are illegal. All leaders who are out are the output of what took place in Naja Nankumbi when the meeting had not been convened by Waswa Birigwa, as it is stipulated here in Article 28 in our Constitution. So it is illegal. That's why when the masquerader who says is our whip said I want to give you a committee, I did not make any application for him. I didn't, because I knew all leaders who are in Naja Nankumbi, the decision and the resolutions of Naja Nankumbi, the meeting had not been convened by a legal chairperson of FDC. So all what they did was ultra-vires and null and void. Therefore, there is no way how I could comply to somebody who is illegal. So I couldn't.
Is the chairperson of a political party an individual or an office?
So here the Constitution stated this clearly.
What does the Constitution say?
The Article 28 said chairperson is the one to call for a delegates conference or a national conference. And this time for them, they went to court to challenge that Waswa Birigwa is not the chairperson. And the court said, no, we are not finding any merit, we are not finding any good reason why Waswa Birigwa is not the chairperson. Yes. Now that if they did not say that Toteremu Kawamwenda is the chairperson, so for us, we are following our chairperson of FDC and following the Constitution to go legally and dissolve and make...
But from where you sit, what does that mean for the struggle for democracy? Because that's how you describe yourselves.
You see, when you are fighting a war, along the way you get some small battles. Yeah. So we are fighting a war, but we are not going to be taken by the people who are bringing battle. We shall fight the battles as we proceed, so that we focus on the war.
Do you think you're focused now?
Yeah, we are. Because these masqueraders of Naja Nankumbi who buy the people to come and meet them with a trade of alcohol. We are not going to follow that. That is diversionary. For us, we are focusing on what we are accustomed to in accordance with the Constitution. So those people who go around, they bring alcohol and they bring people to enjoy and meet and they eat. We are not going to follow that. We are going to be focused. And we don't need, I think this should be the last time, we debate people who talk, who are there and with the cans of alcohol and warrage and everything, then we need to focus, because they are going to divert us from focusing on the real war, then we focus on the battle.
You have an election coming up in under 16 months. Do you see yourselves, how do you see yourselves moving from these battles to get back to focusing on the war?
I'm saying we are focusing on that. These battles will definitely hold us for some time, but will not hold us forever. So we are focusing on how we can take.
Ofono gave you the numbers and told you that FDC has been reducing in numbers in parliament and other elective positions since its creation in 2005, going into the 2006 elections. How do you plan to change that? How do you plan to reverse your fortunes?
You're asking me? Or?
Yes, I am asking you.
So now, let me say, you are saying, was saying the number has been reducing. For us who are Christians, we believe they are saying that when Jesus came and he had more disciples, actually, by the end of it, he ended up with only 12. But it didn't take time that Jesus did all what he could with the number that was reducing. They are saying he had the number that was beyond 60. But by the end of it all, he had only 12. But he continued, he was not diverted. So the OO who is saying the number is reducing is saying that by the reduction of the numbers, we can get diverted. No, we shall continue and follow, even if it is one person, we are focused and we shall, the direction we are taking, we are very sure that will take us to the direction and the destination we want to go.
Chairman Mao, let me come back to you. When you see these splits, you called it splintering. Is it? I think you called it splintering within the different political groups, and you traced it back many, many years ago. What does it mean for the country and its politics moving forward? And there's some numbers I was looking at here. If you look critically at electoral performance, I am aware that there's a group that doesn't believe in elections, but still participates in elections, and those numbers have some consequences. You find a large section of Ugandans are staying out of the election process. If you look at absolute numbers, President Museveni has not managed a majority above 50% if you look at the absolute numbers, because almost 40% of Ugandans are staying away from the electoral process. If you look at the last number. I don't know how you as a political player see a resolution.
Maybe this one he answers as a minister.
Oh, yes.
I see
as a minister.
So this is critical. You know, yes. The elections, they are actually probably under Minister of Justice. Mm-hmm. So he's really the main man. Maybe that one he should talk to. Yes. Ugandans as a minister.
How do you make these elections meaningful if the players in that space are so consumed by these internal fights?
First, I have stated before that all the political parties in Uganda have serious dysfunctionalities.
Yes.
And so to that extent, Godby is right to say the FDC saga is within a context of Uganda. I have proposed that in order for us to think about this together, we can convene the constitutional body, the National Consultative Forum of Political Parties, which is chaired by NRM, deputized by NUP, and all the parties in Uganda involved. They can come and really make their input. Two, a political party is an association, and you associate on the basis of a common interest. The fact that we have Katonga and Najanankumi, it means that the common denominator is collapsing. or it has collapsed. Because you have a set, you have a intersection. It is at that intersection, that's where you have the common agenda. So when parties split, then they become disjoint sets. Each one goes their own way. It is not unique to Uganda. It is even in South Africa. But I wouldn't think Jacob Zuma would convene a meeting to dissolve the ANC. So I think we must first of all be very honest to the group at Katonga and tell them that really deploy your political arsenal. Because in the legal arsenal, I don't think there are a lot of weapons that can give you a way out. Secondly, political parties must, of necessity, have tendencies inside. Look at the church. If you elect a particular pope, you know there will be a certain agenda driven. You can have an ultra-conservative pope, like Ratzinger, or you can have a Jesuit who is more liberal, who is busy hugging homosexuals and so on. But if that is a reason to leave the Catholic Church, that's another matter. But you wouldn't thereby say you must dissolve it on account of that. In the Republican Party, now it is the Trump group which is in charge. Tomorrow there may be another group. There was a time a group known as the Tea Party, which became a very strong pressure group within the Republican Party. And that is what I think the PLU will end up.
Actually, the Tea Party is the one which produced Trump.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Tea Party may be comparable to the PLU. So in the next NRM primaries, you are likely to see people with the NRM logo and the PLU logo, and they'll basically come and dominate.
Definitely.
So we must accept that if you want to keep the party intact, you must accept that at a certain point in history, there will be a group which will be dominant. And the group which has been subdued must mobilize and organize in order to become dominant again. So I would discourage those who really care for the FDC and its historical mission from day one to stop playing this game that in Buganda is called Chifiriza, which is basically saying, if I can't have the baby, let's kill the baby. If I can't be the driver of this ship,
Chairman, with your permission, if I just added, the only way you get those kinds of tendencies to stabilize is when this organization operates fairly and make everybody feels that even when they have lost fairly. When there are efforts to rig both internal and external processes, then it is very difficult to have that kind of environment that you are talking about.
All these institutions, whether government, these are really human institutions.
Yeah.
They are inherently imperfect. You will hear stories of rigging. You have seen even bishops quarreling, an election of a bishop. There one time in Kisoro, there was somebody who put a needle on a bishop's chair. These are human institutions. So if this is a power struggle for the soul of FDC, we can understand it that way. But you form a party because you want to produce leaders who represent your particular ideas in a national institutions. So what is happening now means that the voice of FDC in parliament is diminished. Nobody can tell what is uniquely FDC. It has affected us as DP also. So you wonder what is uniquely. You have a party like NRM, they make a resolution and say we are going to rationalize agencies. Then the very same members who are elected on the NRM ticket go to parliament and say rubbish. So you realize that the idea of associating in a political party is still not well developed. Now the question is, are we helping to develop it? That is really the challenge. The collapse of FDC will be a tragedy because it gave a lot of hope to a new generation of leaders. It produced some very, very energetic leaders. But I think the downfall of FDC started when Kano Besigye decided that FDC should not be a normal political party but should become a protest party. So he said, I have left the party leadership, I'm going to liberate the country. Then after I've liberated the country, I'll call you because you are the ones with the leaders. Then he also got captured by people who use him in elections. They use his energy, they win elections, and then they forget all about him. So one time I referred to him as an Ayatollah. You know, Ayatollah is not accountable. Whatever he says is the alpha and omega. So I think the fight started the moment the Ayatollah started issuing orders to Najana Nkumbi, and the orders were not being followed. So then Najana Nkumbi was referred to as now a party of moles, and yet it is Kano Besigye who propelled Amuriat to the pinnacle of FDC at the expense of Mugisha Muntu, who they called all sorts of names. In fact, Mugisha Muntu should get the Nobel Prize for Peace. Even me who tries to be patient sometimes, there are certain things I can't take. I definitely. So this Ayatollah syndrome in political parties have to be tamed. As a political leader, you must accept to be challenged. You must accept that sometimes people may denounce you.
Like they are
and if you cannot accept that, then you cannot say you are a Democrat. So soon we are going to also examine Kano Besigye's democratic credentials.
But wouldn't you extend that analysis to Uganda People's Congress, to the Democratic Party which you lead, to the NRM, which President Museveni leads? What's the difference?
I can say that at least...
But the difference is the same.
No. In Uganda, we have three types of actors now in politics. We have those who are pro-Museveni, those who are anti-Museveni, and those of us who are trans-Museveni. We are not fixated by... Because now, if you reduce a party's agenda to the removal of one man, and all your articulation is about one man, DP was not formed to remove Museveni. He came in, and DP has been trying to remove him from the time we presented a candidate. It was our candidate who was the first.
He started out as a member of DP, didn't he?
And he moved on. He did not go and try to dissolve DP. Those are also lessons that people who want to move. Because your vehicle can change, but your goal must not change. So I would think that where we have reached now, where does the Katonga group channel its energies? Because the NRM is quiet because they control the state. If the NRM did not control the state, I think it would be more chaotic than any political party in Uganda. Because they have more loose-wired people than you can see them in the media.
I need all to come into this discussion, but I'm constrained to take a quick commercial break, and then I'll pick it up with you after a very short break. We'll be right back.
Frontline.
Welcome back to this edition of The Frontline. We're discussing the issues in the Forum for Democratic Change, but the bigger reflection on the political parties in the opposition and the politics of this country in general. Aboki Fred is watching us and says, Mr. Tumushabe, would you attend a delegates conference organized by FDC Naja and give a keynote address? You need to give a quick answer to that. If they invited you, would you go and give them a keynote address?
Yeah, depending on what they would invite me to talk about. If I feel I have the competence to do that, I definitely talk. Because when I talk to these parties and different organizations, because I speak publicly in many different events, I am speaking as a Ugandan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Misairi Tembo Kaugu says, I would like to tell Honorable Naboth that there is no FDC for him and the group to dissolve. The group has two best options. Start a new party and wait for sympathizers, or reconcile and get back to one FDC. Meanwhile, it is not tenable to seek to dissolve what you don't have power over. Read Ambassador Waswa Birigwa and 27 others versus Boniface Toterebuka Bamwenda. Miscellaneous application number 926 of 2023. This case locked Katonga out of leadership of FDC because court okayed the delegates conference of October 6th. For Godba, he would have first found out the legality of the delegates conference where he went to deliver a keynote address. Mugisa
is
Ronald,
he suggesting this was an illegal assembly or what?
Mugisa Ronald is watching us from Kasusu in Fort Porto, says, Mr. Fono is saying FDC was full of hungry people. He has forgotten that the cream they have in NRM and praised by His Excellency the President were once FDC. The Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, the IGG, to mention but a few. FDC was a strong organization before the destroy of parties had affected it. With the disease of corruption which is killing all political parties. I have a comment here. Someone says, Mao has captured what I might have said if I had more time to explain. Every transition, FDC seeks to destroy itself internally. It is indeed a caricature of its former self. I won't mention the name of this person because Jeff Bidandi says, Honorable Mao has properly illustrated the face of FDC. The party needs a political vaccination. One cancer eating up, well, vaccination happens before the disease sets in. Jeff, I think it's too late for vaccination.
Not a doctor.
One cancer eating up the political class is everyone wants to be the head. No one admits their failures to pave way for others. It will only be one man, his teammates sharing his ideology, leading to no continuity. Whoever disagrees is kicked out of the party. We hope FDC rises from that deep pit. Job Matua says, FDC will never recover again, given the state of fragility it is in. Opposition alliance too won't happen anytime soon, in Uganda explaining the immaturity of our political democracy. NRM will win the next coming elections outright and serve Ugandans more. Let us promote social and economic transformation. My friend OO is doing, as my friend OO is doing in Kapelebyong, and my friend Godba is doing in the coffee sector in Intungamo. Job Matua, Assistant RCC, Arua City. I have Michael. Michael says, just now Mzee is enjoying the drama. He once said Uganda, etandise kumpomera. How can a party aspiring to lead the country split over 500 million? I will manage. How will they manage to share the national budget?
That is a circle.
Yes, worth 72 trillion shillings.
But a small circle.
Ken Mutenyo says, please advise Naboth and the front that the Frontline is a very serious forum and not It's true that the delegates conference can dissolve the political party. It's also true that the chairman of FDC is the one who convenes. Who is the legally recognized party chairman, whose name is filed with the EC? Secondly, can Naboth show the ruling by the Chief Magistrates Court that declared Birigo as the chairman? Naboth under the law, can a magistrates court decide political party issues? No. Naboth must realize that they are primary school kids watching the show and want to enrich their social studies knowledge.
That one is hard.
This one came prepared. This from Nanjana Nkumbi.
We came prepared.
BMK gift from
trying to water down everything.
I'm taking too many messages. BMK gift from Nansana. He's recovering at the hospital in India. But BMK, I'll read your message after Ofono Pondo has submitted in a moment, and there are many other messages that are coming through.
Well, you know, we have complained, many people have complained about the level of parliamentarians. So that person who sent that message to Naboth, I don't know. Because Naboth argues as if Waswabirigwa is the only official in FDC.
He's the legitimate chairperson.
You are silent.
And
No, I'm not saying he's not or otherwise, but FDC has other organs and institutions and officials. I don't think you contest the fact that, for example, Amuriat is the president of FDC. I don't think you contest the fact that Nandara Mafabi is the Secretary General of FDC, who keeps the seal of the party and files the returns. And where they find returns, they are the ones recognized. So please, stop cherry picking one person and then you say, you make it appear as if that's the whole FDC. Now, we okay, we in NRM, we okay to call us whatever name you want, with a dictator, a dictatorship, a junta, and so on. It is convenient, quite often it is convenient for you not to own up. And we are not surprised when the Godbars don't own up for their malaise, their failures, to run their institutions as should be. Of course, we don't expect any human institution to be 100% perfect. But for you to make it a profession that each time you fail, you want to shift the blame. You don't want to own up that NRM is the problem, Museveni is the problem. I think that is escapism, it is defeatism. If you look at the problems, for example, you said in the religious institutions, the problem in the Muslim community was here even under Min. It is not a question of Museveni. It has been running as far back as that time. The problems of UPC collapsed under its own weight. NRM was not anywhere in town. NRM, perhaps, they were hiding in the bush, but UPC collapsed, and not once. 3 times UPC collapsed.
I thought NRA, UPM fought.
No, I'm saying, I am saying UPC collapsed when the NRM was not here. UPC split in 1964, 69. It collapsed under its weight in 1971 when it failed to control government and the country. It collapsed again in 1985. And so you cannot say the problems of UPC is NRM generated. My colleague, the DP people have had their problems before the creation of NRM. It is not NRM that has failed DP from accessing political power or winning an election. No. Now, Nabot, it is okay if you say there are skirmishes, there are battles that may hold you back. But when you form a political party, especially FDC, you had the intention of winning an election, winning seats in elective positions. And hopefully by that means, which was constitutional, you remove the NRM. And I am saying it has been an utter failure. Because since FDC was established in 2005, 2006 election, one, you have lost leaders who have left because they disagree with the management of the party. And that's not a very good situation. 2, you have not increased your representation in any of the elective positions, whether parliament, LC5, district councils, sub-county councils. You have not. 3, when FDC was formed, Teso was your beacon, Teso region. You lost it. Acholi was your region. You lost it. I think Acholi was under a returning Honorable Mao and 1 or 2 other DP people. FDC lost it. West Nile was your beacon. You lost it. Why? Because some of the issues you raised were superficial. Some were fundamental. And when they were resolved, each of them, you lost what to say. Because when you are winning Teso, when FDC was winning Teso, Acholi and Western, mainly it was the question of the war. Once the war was finished, people returned, a sense of normalcy returned, and people started rebuilding their lives. You lacked what to say, and people saw that your FDC was not a very serious group. You went to Kasese. The same thing has happened in Kasese. The same thing has happened in Rukunjiri. FDC as a party has not been a strong party, and I don't think you will ever be a strong party in Buganda, because you have not been actually winning beyond Kampala. Even in Kampala, you have been winning few seats. And so if you say these are just battles holding you behind, because I expect a serious party to know what is primary and what is secondary. Do you split a party over a secondary matter or over a primary contradiction? And I am saying FTC has been focusing, making secondary issues primary. And by that, I think you misdiagnose and also you misapply your energy. What Honorable DP is saying, you misapply your energy. And I don't think in the next round of elections, you are going to be a footnote. I think you are going to be a footnote.
We're continuing this conversation on the Afro mobile app. Chairman Mao, you need to help me here. Someone called
NBS Frontline.